Chris' mother quietly entered the dimly lit room with the curtains closed and checked the bed. Chris was still fast asleep. A photo frame is held in his hand. Inside was a photo of Chris as a young child, smiling and holding Bebe in his arms. The mother raised her hand to wake him up, but thought better of it. She's sure Chris would be happy if she told him. That's why she wanted to tell him as soon as possible. Bebe was a dog that she decided to keep after she was unable to have children for a while after getting married. It's been more than 10 years since then. A relative who is a breeder gave them a puppy for a cheap price because she had just had a newborn. And shortly after having Bebe, the mother could have Chris. So she believes Bebe is an angel who guided Chris. And that Bebe died today. But the call from the relative earlier. She told that a puppy related to Bebe was born this morning. When the mother told her about Bebe's death, she offered to give her another one for Chris. However, since Bebe just died, if I were to tell him this, he might reject me. Thinking like that, she still didn't feel like waking him up. After gazing at the crying Chris' sleeping face for a while, the mother left the room just as quietly as she had entered. A huge pyramid was erected on the desolate land, consisting of a number of flat, neatly molded megaliths piled on top of each other. On top of that one boulder, Pharos woke up. Squinting in the dazzling sun, Pharos couldn't believe his eyes as he sat up. He quickly stood up and looked around.
Where am I?
Pharos muttered to himself. It was an unfamiliar place. There is no sign of anyone around. Pharos recalled his memories. He remembers having dinner at the old woman's hut, but he has no memory of what happened after that. He can't quite remember how he got there. He removed the leather bag strapped to his waist and took a sip of water. Then, he noticed a burlap sack at his feet. Pharos picked it up and looked inside. Inside of it, there was a torch made of wood and couple of flint. Though he was suspicious, Pharos put it on his waist along with the leather bag and jumped from the stone he was lying on to the ground.
It's not just me, Orgos must be here, too.
Pharos thought, and walked around the pyramid looking for Orgos. As he walked around to the other side, the entrance to the pyramid came into his sight. The entrance was wide open like a hungry fish's mouth. Finding the entrance, Pharos headed inside without hesitation. It was pitch black inside, and it seemed impossible to gauge how deep it went.
Orgos!
He yelled, but the only response he got was his own voice echoing around the building. As if realizing something, Pharos took out a flint and a torch from his burlap sack and lit the torch. The torches were oiled and easily lit. Torch in hand, Pharos stepped into the building. On the walls of the corridor, there were a series of pictures of people and animals. Some are kneeling, some are carrying loads, some are fighting, some are praying, and some have wings painted on their backs. Among them were drawings of giant winged beasts. As he went along the corridor, it became narrower and narrower, just wide enough for one person to pass through. Still, without looking back, Pharos pressed on down the corridor, which twisted left and right. After walking a little further, he came to an open space where there was a spiral staircase leading down. There are also paths to the left and to the right that lead further. Pharos held his breath and listened carefully. However, there was not a sound except for the sound of the wind blowing. As he was wondering which way to go, the husky voice of an old woman came back to his mind. You must dive as deep as you can. When you finally reach the farthest reaches, bring back the shining black dragon stone. It's not a red nor blue, it's a black stone. Remembering the old woman's words, Pharos made up his mind and descended the spiral staircase that led downward.
There are torches prepared, so there's no doubt about it. Maybe Orgos will be here first.
With those expectations in mind, Pharos descended the long staircase. Orgos woke up as a strange smell hit his nose. Apparently he was sleeping in a hut in the woods, with straw on the floor. It was completely bright outside. When he got up, the old woman was mixing liquid in a glass container. Apparently she's mixing medicine. He looked around the room, but Pharos was nowhere to be found. "Oh, it looks like you're awake. Did you sleep well?" the old woman said, without even turning her face to Orgos.
Oh, I fell asleep. By the way, where's Pharos?
Orgos asked, sitting down in a chair. The old woman laughed and said, "Yes, he is already on his way."
On his way? To where?
"To the farthest reaches of the world," answered the old woman, turning around.
The farthest reaches? Where is that? Why did he go alone?
"Because he is the chosen one. Unfortunately, only that young man can go there. You shall stay here until he returns."
No, wait a moment.
Orgos raised his hand to stop the conversation. He couldn't understand the storyline.
I don't understand things like the farthest reaches or being the chosen one. Why does Pharos need to go to such a place in the first place? Isn't it our goal to lift the curse placed on Emalua and the others? We came here to help with that.
"That's right." The old woman nodded at Orgos' words. Then, using the cane, she walked over to Orgos and sat down in the chair diagonally opposite. "Listen. The prophet Altasia possesses immense power. If we are to defeat someone with that power, there is no way we can match her as we are now. To break her power, we need a dragon stone, a stone in which the life energy of a dragon is sealed away. And not just any dragon stone, a black dragon stone that seals the energy of the legendary dragon, the super dragon, which is a stone that controls powers. With that stone, we can take away Altasia's powers." "I see," said Orgos. Regardless of the truth of the story, he understood the intention.
So, that dragon stone is in a place called the farthest reaches?
"Yes, that's right."
So, why did Pharos have to go there alone?
"Because he's the chosen one. Ordinary people like you are not even allowed to enter that land. I know that he is a special one who can obtain the super dragon stone." Orgos was mad at being called an ordinary human, and he did not understand why Pharos was one of the chosen ones. He pleaded with her to tell him where it was, saying that he would go there by himself, but she stubbornly shook her head and said that it was impossible. Also, for some reason, time doesn't pass in the farthest reaches. So, Pharos would be back by night at the latest. Orgos was skeptical, but decided to wait for the time being. "Plus, I just needed a man to help me. Just give me a hand." The old woman asked Orgos to do the job, and he reluctantly nodded. After descending what seemed like an eternity of stairs, Pharos finally reached the bottom. The hall beyond the doorless entrance was circular, with a ceiling so high that no light could reach it. There was nothing else in the hall except for a large, semicircular, coffin-like crystal object in the center. Pharos raised the torch and looked inside the object, but there was nothing in it. However, the thick layer of dust suggested that the object had been left there for a long time.
Isn't this the farthest reaches?
Pharos muttered to himself, disappointed at the end of his journey. Then, with a torch, he searched every nook and cranny of the hall. Then he noticed a faint mural on the far wall, It was a painting of a naked woman lying on her back inside this coffin-like object. Furthermore, above the woman, another woman is depicted floating in the air, gazing at her. After gazing at the painting for a moment, Pharos placed the torch in a sconce on the wall. Then, just like in the mural, he lay down in the crystal coffin and closed his eyes.